Good morning, Husker fans. Welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. We're on Friday morning here, Black Friday morning, the day after Thanksgiving. We're getting ready for Iowa, so we're gonna have a little preview, a little prediction of that. We're also going to touch on some recruiting and some other stuff. So before we do that, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comment section. And Danny, how are you doing on this Black Friday? Are you recovered from all the turkey yesterday?
Not necessarily recovering from all the turkey, but yes, I'm doing well. Doing well. I got some Black Friday shopping done. I'm not running to the stores shooting somebody over a television, so I'm gonna do it on my computer on the internet, and I'm ready for tonight's game. And that's the only bummer. I wish the game was a little bit of an afternoon game. Now I got to wait all day, but it's gonna be fun under the lights at Iowa. Last time we were at Iowa, we won, so maybe that's a good omen.
I do remember that game the last time we were there. That was a fun game, and I agree with you. I do wish it was that normal, early afternoon kickoff. I like those on Black Friday,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
oh well. It's the TV people like to have the night games, and I guess I understand it. So
A lot of
could
other
be
good games this weekend too. A lot of good rivalry games. So
there are, yeah, Texas A&M coming back, of course, Michigan, Ohio State. But there's a lot of like almost the entire Big 12 conference seems like they have a chance to make the conference title game.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's going to be kind of interesting. And yeah, big game here for Nebraska. I know we got 6 wins last week, but man, it would be great to clinch a winning season. And
yeah.
I keep thinking about, the Iowa players last year saying, have Merry Christmas to the Nebraska players as they were walking off the field, knowing that they weren't going to be going to a bowl game after losing to Iowa. So, anyways, we did talk about that earlier this week. How just kind of that pressure, or that dread of the bowl game curse kind of being lifted, and the clouds being lifted. I think you can see that with the fan base.
Feels
And
weird, doesn't it?
it does feel weird, like we're coming back to sanity a little bit.
Yeah.
And but I'm interested to see what the team looks like this week and how that's going to impact it. So looking at this Iowa team, Nebraska's I think a 5.5-point underdog. I'm not sure if the line has moved at all or not, 4 or 5 points. But what do you think the keys are going to be, for Nebraska in this matchup against a salty 7-4 Iowa team?
Get Ja'Cory Barney the ball. I mean, they did that last weekend, and we saw him more out wide. Other than his sweep plays and his little gadget plays, we saw him actually used as a wide receiver, and he made his time there count. I thought he was very explosive. Like I said in our last show, he has the most receptions ever for a freshman. So getting Ja'Cory Barney the ball is going to be important for me in this game, and I think if they can do that, then he has the ability to make people miss and make things happen after the catch. So that would do wonders against a tough Iowa defense.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Dylan Raiola, functions against this Iowa defense, and Phil Parker, who, has had a lot of success against young quarterbacks. I mean, they don't run a super complicated scheme, but they like to mix things up between man and zone and kind of confuse you a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how Dana Holgorsen and Nebraska kind of attack that. But Iowa's got, I think, 18 interceptions this year, so they lead the Big Ten. They're like top 10 nationally. So I mean, they do what they do. They take the football away, and so for me, I think the big key for Nebraska is just not having turnovers. At least, I mean, maybe you could have one. You could probably have one turnover and be okay, as long as you maybe force one from Iowa. But like this can't be a multiple interception game from Dylan Raiola. That's a recipe for Nebraska to lose, and probably lose by maybe more than a touchdown if he throws a couple of picks. So that's the biggest thing to me is, Raiola kind of managing that defense, and just, playing a clean game overall, and not just him, but, running backs taking care of the football. I mean, I was really good at those, smacking the ball out. We saw it last year. They forced a key takeaway in the fourth quarter. And so to me, just avoiding those things. And then the special team stuff too. Do not let these guys block a punt. Don't let them get like a fake punt on us. We've seen them do different things like that on special teams, where they've kind of turned that into an X factor. And so, John Hall needs to make the kicks today like he has been, and just protect. Don't lose this game because you get a blocked kick or a blocked punt or a fake punt from Iowa. One of those things. Just nothing stupid on special teams.
Yeah, and to the credits for special teams, whether it's Ed Foley, Brett Maher, whoever, they have been a lot better blocking, and John Hall has been a lot better too. So that's a credit to them. I know we ripped on them. I ripped on them, for their struggles. So I got to commend them when they do well, and they've done a lot better. So shout out to Foley and Maher for, running a much cleaner special teams unit these past couple games. And, one of the things I'm really interested in seeing is the tight ends, because Thomas Fidone got a limited amount of snaps due to his false start penalty. And we saw Luke Lindenmeyer and Nate Borkacher really shine on last Saturday. And Holgerson talked about in his press conference how Thomas Fidone had the best practice he's seen since he's been here. And he gave, shout outs to Luke and Nate. So I think those two will see an increase in snaps this week. And, I think Fidone might get into the mix as well. So I'm curious to see how the tight ends play as kind of a factor in this game and what the snap counts are and things like that, because it seems like that position in particular has gotten a jolt under Holgerson's new offense.
Yeah, I think it's, the thing I like about Holgerson, and Matt Rule said this week, if you don't produce in practice, if you don't play well in practice, you're not going to play during the game. So, I mean, that to me, that makes perfect sense. And not that was even Thomas Fidone's issue, but I mean, he's had some of these problems before, false starts. So you just can't have it, and those are at some point, I think that was a message, not only to him, but to the entire team. Like, hey, whether you're a senior or not, like, you need to do your job. And if you're not doing your job, then you're not going to play. And that's life. That's nothing against Thomas Fidone, but that could be anybody. And so, that's just where this program is at, and that's where it should be. And unfortunately, he didn't get to play that much last week, but he bounced back. He had a good week of practice, and I'm sure he'll get some chances today. But I am interested to see, how much. But I like the idea of a true, meritocracy at Nebraska, and it seems, at least on the offensive side of the ball, that wasn't really happening as much before Holgerson came here. So that's been a positive change, I think.
I agree, and I guess one of my other X factors would be a clean game from the offensive line. They had 0 sacks, and one of the things that I was known for historically and this year is to play their defensive line. And so I think this Nebraska offensive line will be in for a challenge this week. And, that's not because they're bad. It's just because Iowa is good. And protecting Dylan Raiola and giving him that time to read coverages and read those zones and have time to make his throws is going to be extremely important. Like I said, I thought they did really well last week, and I want to see them build off it again today.
Yeah, the pass protection is going to be important, and I think running the ball too, because you don't want to sit there and have Dylan Raiola in this offense be 2nd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7 all day. Keep it manageable situations, and Wisconsin has a good defense too, and Nebraska ran the football really well against them. So I mean, not as good as Iowa, obviously, but this team can run the football. So in terms of another key, I think, for Nebraska, obviously, it's running the ball well, keeping it away a little bit from Iowa, and then trying to slow down Caleb Johnson, which is going to be a chore. And I think the teams that have done it, have had success with it, have just kind of sold out against the run. And with the walk-on Jackson Stratton playing today, I know that Tim Lester, their offensive coordinator, said that they like his arm strength. They think he does have a strong arm. He said he has the strongest arm of any of the quarterbacks, but I mean, whether that's true or not, I haven't seen the kid play that much. But to me, I would make Jackson Stratton beat me today. I would not let Caleb Johnson beat me. I would load the line of scrimmage. I would load the box, sell out to stop him. And then if the other kid beats you, then you know what? You tip your cap to him. But I think that should be the strategy today. And if Nebraska holds Caleb Johnson under 100 yards, they have a very good chance to win, because Iowa's 0-3 in Big Ten games where Caleb Johnson does not rush for 100 yards.
Absolutely. And, you look at the long line of running backs just even recently in this rivalry, Makai Sargent, Tyler Goodson, we have bad flashbacks on some of these games, but if we stop Caleb Johnson, I think we'll be in good shape. And, I think for me, what's going to be important in this game is to see, how they play. Do they come out loose? Do they come out kind of, tight and firm? Is it going to be a game where they kind of know they've already wrapped up bowl eligibility and they're just kind of not freelancing but playing more free? Or is it going to be kind of a feel out first half before both these teams get going? And I'm curious to see what the flow of this game is going to be.
It will be interesting, just Nebraska not having that pressure. I mean, they really can come in playing with house money, really, because they've already got win number 6, and just I feel like we're going to see a loose team with I mean, a lot to play for, but really nothing to lose. So I feel like that's a really positive thing for Nebraska. And so yeah, what do you before we get into our final score prediction, what's your X factor for this game? Player, could be something else, but what's your X factor?
My X factor for this game. This is interesting. Emma Johnson. You know what? Emma Johnson, because I think people say, "Oh, why doesn't he need a starting running back?" and blah blah blah. But we saw what Dante Daldell brought last week too. He had 3 touchdowns, so I kind of understand it a little bit. And even we were wondering why he's not RB1, but the combination of Johnson kind of in the open field and then Dowdell in the red zone worked wonders last week. So I'd love to see Johnson get a ton of carries this week, because he can make people miss and make that explosive play, and then having the running game really establish itself with Dowdell in the red zone is gonna be important. So, but I think Emmett has really shown over these last couple weeks what he can do, and he certainly did last weekend. So Emmett Johnson for me today.
Well, you stole my X factor, so I'm
Oh
gonna
no.
shift it on the last second. So my other X factor that I've come up with here, I'm gonna go with Ty Robinson and Nash
Mhm.
Hutmaker because I think in Jamari Butler, I'm gonna throw him in there. This is the starting defensive line because those guys, I think they need to play, one of the best games of their career. If those guys can control the front, if they can control Iowa, slow down that running game, get some pressure, I think Nebraska, will win this game. And those 3 guys, that entire defensive line unit, not just those 3 guys, but they're going to be vital to this process of trying to beat Iowa. Offensive line too, but to me, the defensive line is going to be an X factor. Now that Danny stole my other X factor, but yeah, Emmett Johnson, I'm right there with you. I think he's got a good chance to go over 100 total yards today, and if he does that, I feel pretty good about where Nebraska stands. And I think, yeah, man, using him as a wide receiver, keep doing that. That dude is just
Mhm.
get him in space, get him the football in space, and he can make plays. And even last year, he ran the ball pretty well
He
down the
did.
stretch. So I really like what they've got. It's funny, you were all thinking about Emmett Johnson transferring. Now we're thinking going into next year is Emmett Johnson being RB1. So that just
Yeah.
shows how quickly, players can change their own trajectory too. So sometimes, when it's like, oh, I could transfer and woe is me. Well, sometimes guys just decide to work and get better. And that's what Emmett Johnson did. So tip of the cap to that guy.
And it's kind of interesting how, and this is kind of not related to Emmett Johnson, but I just wanted to make this point. People, when Marquise Buford and Jamari Butler announced they were coming back, they're like, "Oh, we need new blood. We don't want Butler back." Well, Butler could be a huge, huge piece next year. So getting him back and having a good game today for him, I think it's going to be important because I think it sets the tone for the future and next season. And I'm very curious to see how he does today, and quite honestly, how he progresses throughout the offseason too. So I know people wanted new blood, and I know people are sick of the Frost players in some respect, but getting Butler back next year is going to be massive for a young defensive line.
Yeah, I'm glad that they got Jamari Butler back. Like at least that's one starter that they've got locked in. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm stoked about that. And all right, let's look ahead now. Final score predictions for Iowa. I did mess up a little bit on the spread. It's actually dropped a little bit down to 3.5 points. So it's interesting. It started at 4.5 for Iowa, went to 5.5. Now it's down to 3.5, which doesn't that basically just tells you who people are betting on mostly. Seems like some of the money is trending towards Nebraska. That's because I thought 4.5, 5.5 points was too big of a spread. I feel like this is going to be, with on the Nebraska side, if they lose, I feel like it's going to be 3 points or less. I think Nebraska is going to win this game. I think
All right.
Dylan Raiola is going to play like he did last week. I mean, he's not going to throw for as many yards against this Iowa team, but I think we're going to see a similar guy, just quick decisions, accurate with the football. O-line plays well. Maybe he has a turnover, maybe not, but I think Nebraska gets one too. Sayre Wright, I think, is going to get his hands on a football today, and I'm picking Nebraska 24-17.
Nebraska 17-13.
I definitely could see that. I could see, 17-13, 17-14,
It's not going to
20-13.
be a high score. It's not going to be a high scoring affair, I don't think.
I got him 24-17, and that probably worries. It should be like 17-10, but I don't know. In my mind, I have and this is probably just wishful thinking, but I just have the Trey Palmer touchdown, where they bombed one deep, and I feel like maybe today we're gonna get like a bomb from Dylan Raiola to my guy Ja'Cory Barney that you talked
I don't
about.
know if that's
Maybe,
wishful thinking because now we have the quarterback and the weapons to do it. I mean, maybe.
just I feel like we haven't taken that many deep shots either. In Iowa, they kind of want to play that cover two, and maybe you could
Mm.
get that seam route or that deep post. Like that's what Trey did. He got that kind of deep post up the seam. So I don't know. We'll see, but I'm excited to see what Dylan Raiola does today. And I feel like if the defense again doesn't give up 100 yards and if he doesn't throw a pick, I feel like this team's got a good chance of winning this game. So I know I saw some of the Omaha Herald people are picking Nebraska. I feel like a lot of people are picking Nebraska, and I don't know. I just think to me, I feel like the momentum, that positive momentum and that confidence, it's like with John Hall. Like, he was not kicking the ball well, and then he went into that Ohio State game and made like 2 or 3 kicks, and he hasn't missed
And
since.
yeah,
So
that changed the
once
course of his season. Yeah.
once you get confidence as a player, like there's no like you can't really account for that. Like there's like we don't know what a confident Nebraska team is going to actually look like, and so that's the thing I'm excited to see on Saturday. But I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a fun game. I am kind of excited for it to be under the lights because it adds some aura to the game, as if the game needs any more aura. And yeah, no, I'm very excited for tonight. I think it's gonna be a fun showdown.
Plus, I think the other thing too is, the NFL has that Black Friday game now, so they probably didn't want to compete against that, So it's whatever for TV people. There's enough stuff to keep me entertained till 6:30 Central tonight. And one thing actually that you can watch, Nebraska fans, we got a volleyball match at 4 p.m. Central Time today between Nebraska, second ranked, fourth ranked Penn State. Penn State has one loss in Big Ten play. They're 17-1. If the Huskers win today, they will clinch the Big Ten championship outright. If they lose this match today, they would still clinch a share of a championship with a win on Saturday, but they would need Penn State to lose another match. So, chance to win. Last year, they shared the title with Wisconsin, so a chance to win an outright Big Ten championship today for Nebraska volleyball. So that will be on your viewing screens at 4 p.m. Central Time on the Big Ten Network, so you can kind of use that as your pregame appetizer for football.
Yeah, I was watching it. I believe it was Ohio State, Wisconsin the other day, and it's really interesting. I have trouble finding the volleyball games on TV and knowing the times of the games and stuff like that. But when I do sit down and watch volleyball, I'm always very impressed. And this Nebraska team has really kind of bounced back this season and kind of roared through the Big Ten. I remember everybody was freaking out about an early season loss, and now that's way in the past, and they're in really good shape to not only make the postseason, but I think contend for a title.
Yeah, and sweeping Wisconsin, that was kind of John Cook's nemesis, and they swept him twice this year. So Wisconsin did beat Penn State. That was Penn State's only loss this season. So, I mean, based on that, the Huskers should be able to win, but, Penn State's a really good team. So we'll see how that one works out. But yeah, it would be great
Wisconsin has and destroying the nemesis has helped many Nebraska teams so far this athletic calendar.
Yeah, and I think didn't we beat Wisconsin in basketball last year? Trying to think.
We did.
Yeah, so I love beating Wisconsin. Do not like those guys. It's not quite at the same level as Iowa, but it's just because probably they beat us in football so many times. It's just annoying. And Wisconsin basketball teams are just annoying too. But anyway,
they are.
In
of
terms
Wisconsin basketball players and
former Wisconsin players,
former Wisconsin basketball players. You wonder why Connor Asijian was buried in the depth chart over in Madison, because boy, he's been quite a find for Fred Hoiberg.
Yeah, 5 threes in the first half. The other night he had 6. They said 7 at one point. He must have had his foot on the line and they took one off, and so he finished with 29 points instead of 30. But 29 points off the bench, pretty darn good. And he's we've been waiting for someone to kind of step into that Tominaga role, of that sharpshooter three-point shooter, and he's definitely taken that on. So it was good to see Gavin Griffiths kind of get some more run, but and really this entire team, I think they made 13 threes. I've been saying it's only a matter of time. This team's not going to shoot 29% from 3 all year, and I think we started to see that on Wednesday. So
and I really like Braxton Mee too. Shout out to him. He's more of a post scorer. He doesn't get as many opportunities, but he's been playing really well too. And it's nice to have a legitimate big man there.
It is, and I like
not that Josiah Allick was bad or anything like that, but like he wasn't really as big a post presence, I think, as Mee was. So
yeah, not quite as good of a shot blocker, but he did. He offered some rim protection. He was the only rim protection we had last year.
He was very physical,
yeah. And then on the recruiting front this week, got a couple of things. CJ Brona, I hope that's how he pronounces his name, from Florida. I really like this kid. He's not ranked in the 24 sports rankings. He's a 3-star according to On3, but 6'1", 180-pound cornerback. He runs the 100-meter dash in 10-3-3, people. 10-3-3. He runs the 40 and 4-3. He had played in 7 games last year, had interceptions in 6 of them. I think he ran 2 or 3 back for touchdowns. I'm seeing him blitz, have a forced fumble. He's blocked kicks. I really like this kid, and I think it would not surprise me if he had like a Jeremiah Jones type rise where he ends up being a 4-star, because definitely is underrated.
Yeah, for sure. And it's another player from the state of Florida, another defensive player from the state of Florida. So Nebraska keeps going to that well, and it's working for them.
And the other bit of news, Bear Tenney decommitted from the Nebraska class. Now, from a report from Brian Munson that I got this, or from Sean Callahan, excuse me, Tenney kind of got up to like 260 pounds. He wasn't 225 or 230 anymore. So Nebraska said, hey, like you can come in, try to be an offensive lineman. He didn't want to do that, so he's reopened his recruitment. So if you're wondering what happened with Bear Tenney, that's kind of the inside information. So that's from Sean Callahan, to give him the credit there. But so yeah, maybe I think there was some hope it was connected to Chase Lofton, and it still could be. They still could add that other spot, but I think, Bear Tenney had some of his own issues why he ended up decommitting.
I think we're good on tight end too. Carter Nelson. I mean, we have Ian Flint. Some of these younger guys who can step up and play, and I think Nelson's going to have a big year next year. And so, I mean, it is a bummer, but I trust this, coaching staff to go find another tight end if we need one. And also, it's that is a big weight jump for that tight end position. So,
Yeah,
it is what it is. Yeah.
And he did have some injury because he wasn't, Brian Munson does the high school box score stat check, and he wasn't kind of showing up, Bear Tenney, and didn't play a lot. So I think he had some injuries too. So, I mean, those things just happen sometimes. Probably, and you got to be choosy with your roster. You only got 105 guys, so you can't just be handing out scholarships to people. But yeah, I think hopefully they can flip Chase Lofton. That's still out there. Signing day is coming up this week in now 5 days away. So Cortez Mills, Michael Terry, Chase Lofton, all these recruitments. We'll see if Nebraska can get any flips or get any final signings. But at any rate, I think things are still. I still feel good about Mills and hopefully Lofton flipping. But even if not, I feel good about this class.
And Terry, I do. There's a part of me that feels good about Terry. So
I keep hearing buzz about UTSA and Michael Terry, so I'm like, I don't know if there's any legitimacy to that at all. But
his nickname's the Roadrunner. UTSA are the Roadrunners.
The Roadrunners. So yeah, maybe we'll see. Maybe if they have a huge NIL package, maybe. But
well, you saw, God, who was it? Tim Vergie's tweet with the Roadrunner. So I'm wondering
I did
if that
see
was
that.
connected to it.
But then they also got CJ Brona after that, so I didn't know if he just meant like
the Roadrunner and Brona is fast. So
yeah, I hate these recruiting. They I'm sitting here trying to decipher these memes. Just like make it simple, man. Come on. But
I don't want to spoil that commitment of the kids. So
that's true. I know, and I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. But maybe give me a better clue. So no, I'm just kidding. I love Tim. He's a great Tim Versi.
Really,
yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Staff is really good, actually.
They are really good. So, all right, you guys. Well, we'll let you get back to your Black Friday, get back to your Amazon shopping list. Hopefully, you're buying some Big Red material. But yeah, get your stuff on tonight because hopefully we're celebrating a Nebraska win. We're gonna try to put together a post game chat, so you'll get your notifications on the social media channels. And so, good luck tonight, Nebraska. Go Big Red. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then get into the comments section. And have a great Friday. Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.